Hi class, welcome to week 7, our final week together in this semester. We are moving towards our final assignment number 4. And so this video is going to go over in a little bit more detail some of the elements of assignment number 4 and provide some examples and some additional resources in case anyone is confused or wondering how to go about getting into that. Just to start, I want to highlight the definition of advocacy that was provided in the University of Kansas readings from week number 6 from last week, because I think it gives a good context for leading into the assignment for this week, which is very much a part of advocacy and very much a part of traditional social work advocacy in particular, to help you have a sense of what advocacy is and what it isn't. Sometimes we confuse our role as social workers and advocates and think that we are doing larger scale change when doing direct service, for example. But really, advocacy is trying to engage people on a slightly larger level in order to affect change. So assignment number 4 involves writing the press release and a letter to the editor or a policy brief to an elected official. You talked about this in your community needs intervention plan. And now your assignment is to write them. So as you get started, I'd like you to think about, for both of these documents, in order to craft them, who will they be addressed to? For a press release, what media outlets are you focusing on as you pull together the information that you think is important to get out there in the media? If you're writing to a letter to the editor, what are the key components of a letter to the editor that you really need to include in a short piece of writing? If you're writing a policy brief, what are the really important things that you need for that particular official to know about your issue? If they take away 3 things, what are those 3 things that you think are very important? For all of these documents, it's very important to be thorough, concise, poignant, and impactful. You have a very small window of opportunity to influence media, to influence elected officials, to influence readers of a local newspaper, and it's important to choose wisely the words that you're using in order to get your message across. These elements were very present in week 6, and I encourage you to spend some time reviewing those readings if you didn't get a chance to last week, because it's really important to get a sense of why you need to create these documents and what they're a part of. Generally, when sending things out to the media or communicating with elected officials when involved in a community change effort, as you are in your assignments, they're not standalone documents. They're part of an overall communication campaign, or they should be in order to be effective. And a communication campaign is not just about sending out a press release every once in a while or putting out a Facebook event. It's about creating an overall strategy for how your messages will be conveyed to the public and to stakeholders and to elected officials, decision makers, in order to change the public conversation about your issue. And changing that public conversation is key to being able to effect change on the issue that you are working on. So it's very important to pay attention to how stories are created, what the media goes after, how you can use the media's interest and priorities in order to position your organization and position your issue in order to get the most airtime, basically. You can also work with constituents that you're working with to prepare them to be able to speak on behalf of the community in a way that the media will pick up. You can also plant ideas. You can plant yourself and your organization and your constituents as subject matter experts. These are ways that you can utilize the relationship between your organization and the media in order to start to change that public conversation. Some of the skills involved in this process are knowing how to identify allies in the community and the media, mastering technology or hiring people who can master that technology, how to utilize social media to spread messages and to mobilize support, how to utilize every method of communication, including traditional methods like word of mouth and community outreach. When is it important to use a Facebook campaign or a Twitter campaign, and when is it important to knock on doors? Those are really important skills that you as a practitioner will be identifying and discerning when is the right time to use which method. So for our assignment, I'm going to talk about 3 of those methods. The first one is a press release. So a press release is only one component of a communication campaign, and it's an opportunity to capture the attention of media outlets to cover a story or event that is important to your group. You might use a press release to announce a special event, or a release of a report, or a troubling practice that needs immediate attention. It's important to have an established list of media contacts who are interested in you and your work and follow it. That increases the likelihood that they will pay attention if a press release comes through from your organization. It's also very important to know when the news cycle runs in order to send out your press release at a time when they're going to actually pay attention to it. If you send out a press release at noon on a Monday, you're probably going to miss the stories that have already run for that morning. So it's important to pay attention to when the news gets written and how to get your story in the mix. So I'm including here a really great resource on how to, let's let it load, my internet's a little slow, how to write a press release as a nonprofit organization. And this website, which you can go to by following that link, offers a really great outline of what are really critical pieces of information to include in a press release. So it goes through the headline, your organizational information, the image of the press release is important, being on a headline, being on organizational letterhead, who needs to be contacted. This is crucial information in a press release. Who is the point of contact for the media who can speak on this issue on behalf of the organization? So again, the format, when is the information being released, what's included, it goes through a sample outline, who the contact information is again, brief information that captures really key, crucial information about your issue. You want to make it readable and, again, impactful. So I've also included one example of a recent press release from an organization that works on advocacy issues with different governments in the North American region. And I think it also does a good job of showing an example. So you have a date, you have a headline. This one, obviously, it's done online, so it includes information about how to access additional information, how to follow them on Facebook, Twitter. It goes through the new report that they're releasing. This was the purpose of their press release. So it includes a couple of really important statistics. It includes quotes from the leader of the organization, key quotes from the report that they're releasing. It includes important statistical data in a graphic form that captures the eye of the reader, and goes through some basic, key components that they want media outlets to pick up on. The idea is that a media outlet will take your press release and use it as the basis of your story, of their story rather. So this is a way that you get to help control the conversation about your issue. So another example was included in your week 6 readings of an example of how to write a letter to a member of Congress. As part of the assignment, it talks about writing a policy brief. And I'm going to go over that in the next slides. But really briefly, if you want to include a cover letter or include a letter to an elected official, the reading from NASW really provides an outline for that I recommend looking at. And then finally, this resource on how to write a policy brief from Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, I really recommend it. It's very, very thorough while we wait for it to load. So, it is a great tool for understanding all of the different components of a policy brief and deciding on what information to include. It's obviously written for a public health background and how to translate science into something understandable for policymakers, but it provides, as you see here, a quick lecture of how to do a policy brief, but it also provides PDFs of examples of policy briefs that are good and those that are not so good. It also provides here a policy brief checklist that I find really useful, that I recommend taking a peek at. Helps you determine some of like how do you judge your policy brief? How do you judge whether or not it's being communicated effectively? There's a lot of really good resources on here. I highly recommend looking over this resource if you're considering doing a policy brief on your issue, which I also recommend doing because it's good practice and a really good opportunity to get a sense of how to communicate your issues in a way that elected officials can understand and they can grab from in order to repeat your information and talk about it with other decision makers, which is part of the idea of a policy brief. So finally, we are in our final week of the course, and I appreciate all of the work that you all have put into this class and everything that you've done to make it a meaningful experience. Please complete your course evaluations. Those help me improve as a teacher, and it helps the program improve. We do look at that information and definitely take your feedback seriously when designing the program. As we go forward, again, if anybody feels like I can be a resource to you, please feel free to email me, send me a message. I'd love to keep hearing from you. Congratulations on great work this course, and I look forward to seeing your assignments for the rest of the class.